Hey, good morning. It's a beautiful morning. Got my coffee. Cheers. Should really taste good. It's frosty. Frosty morning. Wind came up early. Yesterday it was quiet, no wind. Got a little fire going. And the puppies are over there sunning themselves. Good girls. Yeah. Sun. Alright, so tonight we're going to be making some stew. I got some meat here I'm going to cut up into some little chunks. And then I'm going to get them on the fire and get them all nice and toasty on the fire. Cut it up into some bite-sized pieces here. Well, I got the meat cut up into small pieces, and I got salt and pepper on there already. Now I'm gonna take it over to the fire, put it in this little pan with a little bit of, I know this says Fireball, but it's actually oil in a little Fireball bottle. Those little alcohol bottles make great containers for such things. Get my pan down there, move those coals around a little. Get this pan down in there. Just try to get this seared a little bit. No. Oh yeah. It's hot. Gloves on. A little oil in the pan. And then, there we go. Leather gloves, important. Dealing with hot stuff. And goes the meat. Let's do. Oh, truck will never hurt nobody. So I just want to get a little color on this meat. So I don't want to cook it through. I just want to get it browned a little bit. First of all, it looks more appetizing in the stew that way. And I believe, and maybe this isn't true, but it seals in the juices. You hit it just a little hot. And sear it on all sides. That's just my opinion. I'm no professional chef. So while that's happening, I'm gonna get the pan. Actually, I'm going to do the stew in. I'm going to put in over here too. Because I need to get some boiling water going. So, here goes the boiling water. There's the water. Not boiling now, but hopefully it will be. I don't want too much because I got some red wine to put in there as well. Give it that. Give this one more stir. Pull the pot out of this back so I can see. Yeah. Looking good. A little longer. So, there's my pieces in there. Sorry, this pan's a little hot. They're all browned up. Now I'm gonna put them in this pot where I got that water starting to boil. That's gonna be the stew base in there. And the meat takes a little longer than the veg, so that's why I did that. Now I'm gonna start cutting up the vegetables to go in there. I'm probably gonna put the onions and stuff in here and brown them a little bit before I put them in the pot. Alright, so I got some carrot and some celery, and I'm gonna get these done and put them right in the pot because these things take a little longer to cook. And then I'm gonna do the onion, and the potato will go in a little later because it takes less time to cook, especially when you cut it up into little squares. And I'm going to add some of these, but right now I'm just going to cut this stuff up before I put it in the pot. Now I got the celery and the onion cut, and I'm going to put, there's a little bit of juices and chunks from the meat cooking in there. I'm going to add this in there. It's called deglazing the pan. So I'm going to deglaze the pan with this onion and celery mixture, and then that'll go in the main stew pot. So there we go. Just browning this up a little bit. You don't want it fully cooked. You're just getting it till the onions are a little translucent. Kind of brings out the flavors, plus it soaks up some of that leftover meat parts that were in there. Then it'll go in the stew pot. Since I have you here, we should see what's going on in there. Ooh, look at that. Go. What it looks like. I'm gonna pull the pot off this, the lid off of this. Ooh, she hot down there. And this goes into the pot. Woo, if you could smell this. Smells so good. Ah. It smells like heaven. Those onions got all fragrant. They got fragrant in the heat. Okay. It goes back on the pot. Now that we got the stew, it's basically the stew, or the meat, the onions, carrots, celery in the pot. Now I'm just gonna monitor it for a little bit. Probably add the wine. Give it just a little bit more time and add the wine. And while that's cooking, I'm gonna cut up this potato and a few of these mushrooms I brought from home and get them ready to go in the pot. Now, like I said, the potato doesn't take as long to cook, especially if you do smaller bite-sized pieces. And these don't either. I don't like my mushrooms mushy, so I try to put them in toward the end of the cook so that they're a little bit firm. I just remembered that I have the rosemary and thyme to put in the pot. So I'm gonna open the lid and put it in there. This might be a bit much rosemary. I'm gonna do half. Get the rosemary in there, and sprigs of thyme. Put them in whole. You can take the sticks out after. It's been in there a bit. Got the thyme in there, rosemary in there. I did add the wine while you weren't looking. I may add a little bit more since the Water tends to boil away a little bit. We lose some of that, ouch, moisture. A little hot, damn. This is gonna cool the pot too. A little more red wine. What I got here now is, the surface isn't very flat, but it's the best I got. I got some flour here, and this is maybe a half a cup of flour. And then I'm gonna add salt. I'm guessing about that much. Probably a half teaspoon of salt. I'm guessing this is about a half a cup of flour. And then this is probably a quarter teaspoon of baking powder, which probably don't really need because I'm going to add a little of my sourdough starter in there. But that's what the recipe calls for. Mix that up. And then I got some melted butter. It's probably a quarter of a stick, but I probably don't need that much. Maybe half of this, but I'm gonna add that in. Uh-oh. And knead it around. So we got that nice crumbly consistency there with the butter. Now I'm gonna add some of this sourdough starter that I've been working on. This has got really a high moisture content into it, so we're probably not going to need to add water to this. Normally for this flatbread you'd add water, but my sourdough starter's pretty wet. This dough is not supposed to be a super wet dough. It's supposed to be kind of dry. You want to bring the dough together so it's nice and a nice firm dough ball. See how it's kind of dry? It's not like that sticky one we had yesterday. I'm just gonna cover it with this handkerchief and let it rest. So there's the dough. Now I'm gonna probably just break it up into some smaller pieces here. Make a couple like tortilla size little flatbreads. And it's not getting very even, but that's okay. I'm just gonna smash her about here with my hand. Till I get it to the thickness that I like. You know, 1/8 of an inch would be good. This dog, she thinks she's gonna get some. Alright, so that's about the size I made it. It's about fit in that pan, so they're not perfectly round, they don't have to be. So here we go. Now I'm going to do the same with this. I'm not going to bore you with the details. It was time to add. I tasted the meat and it was still just a smidge chewy, so it needs just a little bit more time. But that's a good time for you to put the potatoes in. So I went ahead and put the potatoes in. You can see the red potatoes right there, and I put the mushrooms in. Now, of course, this cooled the pot. It was boiling, and as you can see, it's a little full, but those mushrooms will shrivel down quite a bit in there. I don't think we're gonna get any spillover. Might have been a little ambitious with this big pot of stew, especially for just little old me. Only one person eating this stew. Maybe the dogs will get a little. Alright, so that's in the pot. Putting the lid back on. Letting it go till the taters are done. Alright, so the potatoes are soft. There it is. And I'm gonna pull that pot and just let it cool for a bit, because it's gonna be way too freaking hot to eat. So out it comes, and that only took about 20 minutes for those to get hot, to get cool, or soft. So, but they were kind of small pieces. The bigger the pieces, the longer they take. And I cut them into pretty small bite-sized pizzas. Oh, and I got my bread cooked up here. This turned out more like a bannock, but it still tastes really good. A little crunchy on the outside and soft and doughy on the inside, like you'd want a flatbread to be. Out comes the pot. I'm gonna set it over here, cool a bit, away from the fire. Don't want to be eating that thing pretty soon. I'm hungry. Tending the fire and all, it's been takes some work to keep the coals going and everything at the same time. But I think we got it done again tonight. The bread probably wasn't as good as I wanted it to be, but it'll do. Tastes good. Alright, so it's been about 8 minutes since I set this down. It's still pretty toasty. Can you see what's going on here? Adjust the camera a little. I think you can. Anyway, stew, bread. I'm gonna put stew in this pot here. There's one of those sprigs of thyme I was talking about. Just pull it on out and dish it on up. There's some potatoes, some carrots, a little bit of beef, onions. Look at that. Oof. Alright, I'm going to start with that. Maybe a little juice. A little juice. Look at that. The meat, the carrots, all in there. Some juice. Turned out really good, I think. Here's the test. Oh yeah. She's steamy hot. Get out of here. You're in the way. A little bit of celery. Yep. Turned out really good. Still piping hot. A little bit of my bread dipped in the juices. Yep. If you like bannock, that's what this kind of turned out like. Or biscuit. Kind of got that biscuit texture. It's real good. Thanks for following along. I hope you liked the video. I hope you liked the cooking stuff. And I appreciate y'all. Everybody that's watching, everybody that's part of my fam at this point. I appreciate y'all. Thank you. Alright, I'm gonna sit fireside here using this camera that's supposed to have some low light capabilities. We'll see. I don't know how well you can see me, but I wanted to show you. I polished off a little over half of that stew, so it was a lot for a single person. I could have probably got away with a lot less, but boy, was it good. So the potatoes were perfect, the carrots were perfect. The meat, I think I got some pieces that were a little bigger than others, because a couple pieces were a little chewier than other pieces that were perfectly tender in the way they should have been. And the red wine definitely made it taste better, for sure. And the spices that I added in there, the rosemary and the thyme. Now, if you were going to do this on a trip sometime, you probably wouldn't need to bring those fresh spices. You could bring dried if you wanted to, or just go salt and pepper. Lots of people do. I just had them in my fridge and I wanted to do it that way. The meat that I used was actually it was a flat iron steak, and it just happened to be what I had in my freezer. Red potato, orange carrot, nothing else was all that fancy. But from start to finish, this took about 2.5 hours is what it took me. I would say I started around 3 o'clock with getting the fire ready for coals. And then as soon as I got the water boiling, the meat done, and then it was just tending the fire and making sure that the coals were there to keep the pot simmering. And then of course I needed coals also to do that bread, and the bread turned out pretty good too. I only ate one of those flatbreads. It was just too much, and the stew was too good. So I would probably change what I did with the flatbread, but that's okay. It turned out okay. It tasted like a Bannock biscuit, and it was fine with the stew. Worked great. Anybody eating it probably would have liked it. But anyway, I just wanted to share that with you guys, that this kind of cooking is a little bit time consuming, but it's the colder trips. It's, you know, there's not as much sunlight on these late fall days getting into winter, and I enjoy doing it. It's kind of hard. I like to do it for people more than just for myself, but every once in a while it's just a good practice, because cooking on the open flame takes practice, and if you don't keep up on those skills, it goes away. So I haven't done anything like this in a long time, and I'm really happy that I did, because cooking on the fire it brings me joy. I enjoy doing it. And when it turns out as good as both of these meals, today's and yesterday's, turned out, it makes me happy. It's good for my soul. But I really enjoy the fire, cooking. Smoke's not so much, makes your eyes water. But it's a part of it. And keeping the fire going, and keeping the right temperature, and having coals available if the fire gets too cold. All of that's just time consuming. But I've really enjoyed cooking for you, and I want to say thank you again. I'll probably be going to bed again early tonight. I might sit around the fire for a little while. I might even have a cup of hot cocoa, but we'll see. Anyway, good night. They kept alerting to something last night, and I'm thinking, bear. There's a bear in the area. I had seen bear shit on one of the walks we did a couple days ago, so I'm thinking bear.